Hello, everyone. Today I want to talk about the idea of reputation and what is your reputation and how much does it matter. I think reputation is a big thing, especially coming from someone who's supposed to uh, represent an entire religion. And from the Christian perspective, we're all ambassadors of Christ. So, in my reading today, I read the statement that made me get this idea. It was now Jesus himself pointed out that a prophet has no honor in his own country. And I was like, well, why is that? Why do people treat you different the more they know about you, or the closer they are, the closer you are to home? It made me think back to my childhood and maybe the people who enacted or interacted with me in not the worst and not in the best situations. I'm not a perfect person. Never have been. I've done things wrong in the past, and there are different times in my life where I've been closer or had a better relationship with Christ, and then times I've been further away from the path. And depending on where you've met me in my journey, your opinion of me might be totally different. And I think that's the truth for a lot of people. One of the things that we have to recognize is that no one's frozen in time. Who you are today isn't who you will be tomorrow, isn't who you were 1 year ago or 3 years ago or however long. And nobody, people change, and it's usually ever either for the good or for the bad, but people don't stay the same way. Now, there's no honor for a prophet in his own country kind of makes me think of maybe your best friends. If you grow up and you want to minister to people, or you have these great ideas for the future or these plans for your community, and you come back home and you want to share your vision with everyone, you're always going to be that person who did this foolish thing when you were 16 or this foolish thing when you were 23. And to them, that opinion, that old you, that person that you used to be, is forever cemented in their mind. In the Christian perspective, when you become a Christian, the old you passes away; it dies effectively, and there's supposed to be this new creation that goes forward and not connected to the past. All the failures and the regrets died away with the old self. And now this new person who's moving forward is not tied down to those chains of who they used to be. They're not burdened by, the regret and the guilt of the things of their past. Something totally new. And that's great for the person who's become this new creation, but that leaves a lot of room that people who knew the old person have to accept. It would be hard for me to meet somebody who in my past had done wrong by me or had lied to me or stolen from me, and they had a pattern of that. And then now I'm supposed to trust that they've changed, and I'm supposed to believe that without seeing evidence, because this is when they first come back. After years and years, I keep going back to this idea of patterns. Patterns are important because patterns show consistency, and people look for the patterns in your life. Then they judge you by your patterns most of the time. And if you've been on a long stretch of good patterns, people are going to be more inclined to trust you. If you've been on a long stretch of bad patterns, people aren't going to trust you. And if you meet somebody who they remember the patterns of who you were during this section of your life, they're going to judge you based on what they remember. And I think Jesus was talking about that idea that when he goes back to Galilee, he's always going to be Mary and Joe's son. And whenever I'm back in town, I'm just one of those Wiggins boys, and it's just really important that you always remember that your reputation matters. And we are taught, and for good reason, that you shouldn't really that it's good to not care to a degree what other people think, that you should be yourself and that you should try to be not influenced by other people. But from a societal perspective, if you want to ever influence other people, if you want people to trust you and to count on you and do all these things which are important as you grow up, you're going to have to build a reputation. You're going to have to build some consistency that people judge you based on. And they look at you and they look at the life you live and they say, this is somebody that I can get behind. This is somebody that I can trust and that I can move forward with. And if you at a young age, and I think young people are notoriously reckless, I know I was, but if you lose the vision of that one day someone maybe 20, 15, 30 years in the future is going to judge you on your actions as a, you know, uh, irresponsible 13 or 16-year-old, you would probably be more careful with your actions. But that's the thing, when you're 16 or when you're 13, you don't think like that. You think about in the short term and you think about what I can do to benefit and what can, it's all about you, what makes you feel good. No one's really thinking in the long term. How am I going to be seen in the future if I do this act right here? And like, I'm trying to spin this in a Christian way. How does this reflect the person that I represent? Or, as in Christ, or as in your church, or as in your family? Because usually there's strings attached to people, and those strings represent the people that they associate with. So we also had to be careful about what groups we roll around with, or we hang out with, or sing with, and we want that group or to have the same reputation that we want to have. And because you can't really blame people for seeing you in a certain light when that's the light that you shine for years and years and years. It's great that we do change, and it's great that we aren't stuck in history. But when people treat us based on our past actions, it's us who has to convince them that we're different. There is some element of acceptance when you're hanging out with people from your past, but they're just treating you as if you're the same you that they met the last time they saw you. And it's up to you to forge that new future and to let people know that there is something different about you. It's not, you know so many people from your hometown. You know so many people from the area that everybody knows everybody. Everybody knows those worst moments, and believe me, the worst moments are remembered a lot more than your best moment or your brightest moment or your most selfless moment. And just like in the news, they don't go around when you turn on the TV and you don't hear the good news all the time. That's because people are caught by the negative. Every time something terrible happens, it'll turn your head. It'll make you listen in to hear what disaster happened where. But the news isn't full of good, positive things all the time, even though they're happening everywhere. And just like that, no one's taking a list of all these good things that you're doing throughout your life. They're taking a list of all these negative things. So you have to be really careful. And you're not supposed to do those things in anyways, but we as humans do fail. But we have to understand that the people in our world or in our life, they're not frozen in time. That they change, hopefully for the better. And maybe if someone's coming back into your life with a new perspective, and maybe they don't talk the same, maybe they don't hang out with the old friends that they used to, maybe they've got a new direction in life, but you didn't trust the old them. Maybe it's time to start giving some people a second chance. And I know you're sitting there like, yeah, but I've given this person a third chance and a fourth chance. Jesus says, how many times should you forgive somebody? 7 times? And he says, no, 70 times 7 or something like that. So there's some perspective on it. I'm not saying you have to associate with those people, but we are supposed to forgive them. And just like you need your own forgiveness for those mistakes that I know you've made, that you might be making now, but that you might not be making tomorrow. And tomorrow, when you're not doing these things, you don't want people to be thinking back to the old you. You want them to give the new you a chance. You're going to want that new creation to have a good shot at life and to be accepted for, the new creation that he or she is. So hopefully, um, hopefully this gives you some perspective, especially for any listener who's young, who's not worried about consequences right now because they'll be there down the road. You might not feel it for 10 years or 20 years, but one day you'll meet somebody that all they remember you for is that one time you did them wrong, for that one time you did their cousin wrong, or something like that. And we need to be accountable for actions now. Start early. Don't wait to change to be that new creation in 10 years or 20 years. Not that's great if you do, but just know that there will be consequences. Um, for all my members of the youth group, please make sure you come by on Wednesday night. We'll be practicing the Youth Sunday. We got a skit, we got some songs, and we need to get some work done before the 26th. So that's when everyone will be in front of the church, and I'm sure y'all want to do your best and look your best. So make sure you come out to do the practice, and keep everyone in your prayers. Everyone's going through something tough, and there's a lot of sick people in the church and in our local community, in our family. I just found out my grandfather-in-law has a brain tumor, so pray for him, and just keep everybody in your prayers. But y'all have a good day.